Whether you're on board with the idea that this eclipse is going to be a major problem, or whether you're very skeptical about that, I'm kind of more in that camp. But what we are seeing out there is that things are escalating rapidly towards a major crisis. We're going to be talking about kind of what's going on out there. We're not going to be talking about the eclipse, but we are going to be talking about the things that we can see on the ground, the situations that are escalating. Yeah, we got World War III over there happening, but when we talk about what's happening inside the United States, we can see some serious problems, from supply chain issues to hacking attacks against basically every computer system that we see out there. Not just healthcare, but we're seeing problems with stores, we're seeing problems with payment processors, we're seeing bank accounts and bank companies are being hit by cyber attacks as well. We got a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we're going to be talking about what's going on out there. Things that the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about, so that you are informed about what is going on around you. If you appreciate that, make sure you hit that thumbs up button all the time for the videos that you like. Appreciate that. All right, so we've been seeing escalating hacking attacks. Now, I know hacking attacks don't really sound like really super serious. We have, United States drops a joint direct munition upon a car overseas, and it's like, woo, that's a big deal. But somebody hacks a hospital or a network of hospitals inside the United States, and more people could be dying from that hack on the hospitals inside the United States, and yet it kind of is like, oh, well, your computer systems don't work. Ooh, right? And it can get that kind of response. And that's kind of really the point, isn't it? That our foreign adversaries can attack the United States with these hacking attacks, and the United States may maybe respond with hacking attacks. But the thing is that we are at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to hacking attacks. China, basically all of their internet goes through their Great Firewall, as they call it. They have the Great Wall of China, right? Well, they have the Great Firewall of China too. So basically anyone inside China that wants to go connect to the internet out there has to actually go through government servers to reach the actual internet. They can interact with people inside China relatively easily, but to get outside, they have to go through the Great Firewall, which makes it very difficult for outside adversaries like the United States and our allies to attack the computer systems of China. They've thought through this whole process, whereas the United States is completely wide open to attack. We are completely open to attack from everyone from the outside. They can attack us any which way. They can attack this hospital, that hospital. They can attack this pipeline. They can attack that computer server farm. They can attack Google. They can attack Facebook. And we've been seeing this type of thing. They can take down whole networks of cell phones like AT&T. We saw that hack just the other month. We've seen Change Healthcare with United Healthcare has locked up the insurance industry into one big knot where nothing is happening, and everything that's being processed has to be manually processed, and everyone's having to get doctor's notes. They have to get prescriptions written on pieces of paper again. We're moving backwards. The United States economy is grinding to a halt. Factories and production centers are stopping production because computer attacks and supply chain issues. And some of those supply chain issues are being caused by computer hacks. I can't underscore enough how serious of a threat this is. The fact that we have countries that are dedicated to the downfall of the United States, while the United States is not actively attacking those other countries. The fact that we can be at peace with these countries and yet they're undermining us at every single step of the way. It's no surprise that when we look at what's happening in the southern border of the United States, we see hundreds of thousands of Chinese citizens coming across the border. And most of those Chinese citizens have gotten exemptions and have gotten approval from the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, in order to leave their country. Most Chinese citizens don't have a passport. They have to apply to the Chinese Communist Party. They have to be given a high enough social credit score to get approved to have a passport. And most of the time, they have either done service to the government, the Communist Party, or they have served in the military. And so many of the people that are coming across our southern border of Chinese descent are trained military people. And those that aren't that have other connections to the security apparatus over in China. We have hundreds of thousands of military-aged males coming from China into the United States, and they actually are more loyal to the country they came from than they are to our own country. We see these countries undermining us at every turn. You know, some people say, look, why haven't they gotten into a shooting war with us? And the answer is, why would they do that when the invasion of the United States is going so well? Right? They're invading us. They're sabotaging our industries. Back in World War II, we had to carpet bomb the industries of the Germans and the Japanese, right? To get them to stop making things, we had to carpet bomb their factories, right? Well, the Chinese are destroying our factories here in the United States while they're at peace. They don't have to send fighter bombers across the ocean to go destroy our factories. They can just undermine financially our factories. And we are shutting them down and exporting the production of that to other countries. The United States is de-industrializing. We are moving backwards. We're shutting down all the factories. When you think about how many cars are produced in the United States versus how many cars are being produced even in Mexico nowadays, we are shipping our factories overseas or across borders. And this is dramatically impacting our ability to fight the next war. We're running out of artillery shells to give to Eastern Europe. We were giving them to Eastern Europe, and then we started giving them to Israel. And the thing is, like, we just don't have enough of them to go around. We're finding we've already borrowed 500,000 artillery shells from South Korea. Like, we owe South Korea 500,000 artillery shells. That would take years of U.S. production of artillery shells just to pay them back. Years. The fact is that we can't produce enough of anything anymore. Everything that we need, more or less, is going to have to be supplemented from other countries' production outside. Even stuff that we produce here in the United States, we usually don't produce enough of it. We produce cars here, but we still import cars. How is that? How many cars do we actually export? That's a question somebody should ask, right? We manufacture tons and tons of cars here in the United States, but we don't export any. We manufacture the cars here to sell to people here. And we import them from the other oceans and other places. But we don't really export them to other countries. And that goes with a lot of manufacturing. The war on the United States has begun. The energy front is a big one. And they're just trying to convince us to put in as many Chinese solar panels as possible. You ever notice that? It's like, we're going to be energy independent by putting in Chinese solar panels. That doesn't make sense. And they tell us that that's going to be the future, is becoming dependent not on Saudi Arabia for oil, but on China for solar panels. If that makes sense to you, you know, it must be a Common Core thing, because that doesn't make sense to me. So we have all these attacks happening against the United States, the undermining of the United States, but it's even worse than that. The United States military is falling apart. And while on surface of things seem to be okay, but the priorities of the United States military are going in a distinctly different direction than winning wars. As the late Rush Limbaugh used to say, the purpose of military is to break stuff and kill people, right? I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. That's what everything in their inventory is basically working towards, is breaking things and killing people. But now we're being told that inclusivity and all these woke agendas are really actually more important for the military. To consider how many miles per gallon, when you're talking about tanks, it's not actually miles per gallon, it's actually gallons per mile for tanks, because tanks are, heavy, and that's like the opposite of fuel efficient, right? But they're trying to create electric vehicles for battle spaces. I'm sorry, friends, but it's bad enough that we have to carry all that ammunition and fuel. We don't need giant flammable battery packs inside our vehicles. And just a simple fact is that the performance is so bad. The performance of electric vehicles compared to fuel, petroleum fuel, is just a world of difference. And yet they're pushing all these kind of things on us. But it's not just even that. It's the fact that the United States military is not prepared for fighting a major war. We've built a military that's great at putting out brush fires around the world, going and training other countries how to fight. We have lots of special operations soldiers and everything like that. But when it comes to heavy military units that can really punch and punch hard, artillery, like we're seeing in Eastern Europe that is necessary, we just simply don't have enough missiles, smart bombs. We don't have enough of these computer chip-driven fancy weapons. And just the fact that we are so heavily dependent upon these fancy Gucci weapons that we can't afford. The F-35 is the poster child of all that. It is the epitome of how messed up everything is. It's going to cost us like $1.7 trillion for the F-35 program. And right now, between 15 and 30% of the F-35s in the U.S. arsenal are actually combat capable. The Marine Corps, it's 15%. The U.S. Air Force, it's 30%. You can go to any military base, any air base inside the United States and look at the F-35s lined up. And if it's a U.S. Air Force base, you will be able to pick out 3 F-35s on average and know that only one of them can actually fly a combat mission within the next day. Does that blow your mind? That we have these extremely, incredibly expensive aircraft that cost $600 million a piece. That's how much it will cost to purchase and operate the fighter jet. $600 million a piece to operate it through its lifespan. That's expensive. When you start comparing that to Navy ships, I mean, we have extremely expensive Gucci weapons, which is cool when we're fighting, people hiding in caves. But the thing is, when we start talking about first world powers, they're not going to cut it. We already know for a fact that the Russian air defense systems can actually see our F-35s. So their stealth, I mean, it's not like they're as visible as other aircraft, but they're less visible. But Russian anti-aircraft systems can lock onto them. Now, can Chinese missile systems lock onto our F-35s? We don't know that yet. But considering how the Chinese and the Russians are all like getting in cahoots with each other, is that information being shared? Possibly. And as we fly our F-35s in the vicinity of Taiwan, are they practicing trying to lock on to our fighter jets? There's that. We are at a distinct disadvantage. We are waiting for our enemies to feel like they're ready. They've been preparing and building their militaries to fight us. And we're not building our military in order to fight them. And that is going to put us at a distinct disadvantage. Not to mention that we're going to sit around and wait until they launch a surprise attack on us. What happens then if it's an EMP over the United States? What happens if it's a nuclear first strike to take out our Navy, our missile systems? What happens if one day we wake up and the sky is on fire? What happens if we wake up one day and all of our electronics don't work? What happens if one big hacking attack takes out the power and everything else in the United States? Are we ready for that? And the answer is absolutely not. We're not ready for that. And yet, Americans and many other Western power countries, the citizens can't even contemplate that. It's like the idea of that is so foreign and so absurd to them, and yet, when you look at the facts, it's an ultimate certainty. As I keep saying, how long into World War III do you think the power grid is going to be on for? How long into World War III do you really think we're going to have access to the internet? I mean, if we're in World War III with a major power, do you really think that they're going to be like, yeah, we don't want to actually attack them with our hackers. We're going to just like not hack them because, of course they're going to hack us. They're going to hack us with everything they have. The Chinese have been burrowing into our infrastructure and all the computer systems in the United States. You think that they're not going to start flipping switches as soon as we get into a shooting war with them? Yep. When we start sending a couple aircraft carriers over there to stop them from invading Taiwan, they're going to start flipping the lights off in the United States. I mean, that's just like, that's just what's going to happen. That's not like predicting. That's what every single defense agency inside the United States has said will happen. And yet, Americans don't believe it. Maybe we should start listening, because hard times are coming. And we're going to be on the receiving end of some pretty nasty stuff. Get prepared. Don't worry. Don't worry in the sense of not doing anything, but just take action. Take action to become more prepared. And that's what really needs to be said all around the world is people need to start preparing for things, because the government is going to have way too much on its plate to take care of you and me. We need to be taking care of ourselves. We need to be taking care of the people that we love and doing the best we can to help other people around us. All right, friends, if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's another one right up there. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.